Could also be PIK. Mezzanine debt could be PIK interest, which is when you don't pay the interest. you let it accumulate like a credit card until the debt expires, and then you pay it. This is good for LBO companies that are or firms that need cash. They need cash for add-on acquisitions, whatever. Okay, finally, I'm gonna end with this. How the heck does an LBO model work? This is the question that seems like a simple question. And then, of course, everybody, like, I know when I was looking at LBOs, I was like, what is going on? Like, what? I'll try to simplify it. You don't need to know how to build one for investment banking, but you know how to need to walk through one. As with everything, you make your assumptions first. What multiple are you buying? What are you selling at? How much debt are you using? What kind of debt? Step 2 is to create a sources and uses table. What is that? A sources and uses table is just a way to calculate sponsor equity. What's sponsor equity? That's the number we put in, or the money we put in to buy the company. It's our initial investment. So to find that, we figured out the cost of the company here, 75 million. We have 5 million transaction costs, 80 mil. We know how much debt we're going to take, because usually debt is driven off of like a EBITDA multiple, so 6 times. So the debt's already given. So really, the number we have to find is this equity part. Sorry, this is a little confusing. This circle should include both sponsor equity and management rollover in a way, because you're sort of finding both. You're finding the total equity, and then you're going to apply like 90%, give 90% to sponsor and 10% to management. Why are we giving 10% of the equity to management? That's very common. You want to incentivize management to care about the business. So putting their skin in the game is the best way. Okay, sources and uses. Next is to project free statements without debt. So income statement, cash flow, balance sheet, no interest expense, no debt. Because debt's complicated. You have to build a separate schedule after just for debt. You got to figure out how much debt you got, what you're repaying, what you're borrowing, what you're repaying. And there's a very important line called cash available for financing activities. Sorry, I'm gonna see if I have that somewhere. Yeah, here. There are different ways to calculate this. And in this example, they use the kind of a way that I don't actually use. Some of these slides I didn't actually create, but the way I would do it, although they're very good slides, for the person who helped me make these is an amazing gentleman. Anyway, the way I would do it though, I'm going to put this here actually. Using cash available. What is this? Cash available financing activities. It's just cash flow from operations plus cash flow from investing. It's literally the first 2 sections of the cash flow statement. This line is by far the most important line in the LBO model, because this line represents the cash you can use to either pay back debt, or if it's negative, you had to borrow money to cover your shortfall. So once we have this number, these numbers, we can put them in the debt schedule, and this will tell us how much we're borrowing or repaying. Okay, so we build the debt schedule. We figure out, you know, what we're paying, what interest we're paying every year. Calculate IRR. IRR is actually pretty easy to calculate. Yeah, you can think of it as like if I put in $100 in Excel, I could literally just go 100, 0, so negative 100, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 200 in year 5, select the whole thing, equals IRR. Or I could use this formula, the good old compounded annual growth formula. But yeah, that's how you do it. You figure out what you put in, what you get out. Okay, so finally you do sensitivity analysis. So what happens if we change the debt, from 5 to 7 times, or change the exit multiple or entry multiple, or change like operating assumptions like revenue growth? Great, so that's it for today. We covered a lot. I was trying to give you guys the most in a short amount of time. But I want to open up Q&A right now, because I'm sure there might be some questions.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions, feel free to unmute your mic and just ask the question, or you can type it in the chat as well, and I can read it out to Josh. I guess I can start it. And it's just generally, Josh, what do you say is like the best way for people that are kind of starting the recruiting cycle now, since interviews are starting now and they'll probably go on till fall? What's the best way to really prep for it? Maybe the main one to focus on in the start, and then other ones to focus on later in different areas to like build both technical and the behavioral side of interviews in order to be successful in an interview process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The best way to prep. Well, the best way to prep is with me. Just kidding. But not kidding. I actually do have been doing this for a lot of years. So if you do want prep, definitely hit me up, and I'd be happy to kind of do a customized mock interview for you with very advanced questions or whatever you want. Or if you just want somebody to kind of like look over your behavioral answers, I'm happy to do that. So that's a service that I offer through my business finance interview coach. And then feel free to, email me at josh@financeinterviewcoach.com if you have any kind of questions. But in terms of general prep tips, I would say, well, read the slides. Read these slides for sure. I mean, the most common thing is people will say, read this 400 question book. I'm sure you guys have seen that. I read that back in like 2009. Like that book's been around for a while. Every investment banker has read it, and probably avoids asking questions from it. But still, nonetheless, read it because it's like free, probably easy to find. I have a resource, right? You should feel free to check that out. My questions are a bit more advanced. I have a lot more like written calculation questions, and just like more really advanced super day type questions. So yeah, definitely use all the resources you can. What else can you do? Do lots of mocks if you have any friends that are seniors. Tons and tons of mocks. But yeah, I guess my advice is sort of probably stuff unfortunately. You gotta just be resourceful and just keep hustling. And do lots
we have Hendrik. Thanks for that. We have Hendrik in the chat. He has his hand raised. You can go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, in your experience, do you find that a lot more interviews have the traditional like interview where it's just like a Q&A type thing, or do you find that a lot of interviews that you've had have you building say like mock work products in short amount of times, like building models quickly and stuff like that, and then how you recommend to prepare for the technical aspect in that regard of interviews?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, some interviews will be more like conversations. You're right. And usually it's like the bigger banks that have a more structured process. So in big bank, you're gonna expect the usual, like, walk me through your resume. Why this firm? Why investment banking? Pitch me a stock. What's your biggest weakness? Whatever, right? They're gonna have your cookie cutter. I would say for like buy side companies, especially small, like medium sized or medium sized banks or whatever it is, it's going to be less structured. So size is definitely a factor. But the other factor is, like, are you coming in as somebody they already know? If they already know you, it's going to be a conversation. Then it's going to be like more like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, you worked on this. Oh, cool. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, do you like financial modeling? Blah, blah. And then you like, yeah, this one time I built a financial model and, those for this deal, and, had to make all these assumptions and work with the client. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. Sometimes it'll be more conversational. So it's up to you to figure out what it is, but probably at this level, it's going to be more interview style. That being said, always make small talk and always try to just be like humble and nice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so like buttering people up beforehand essentially makes your life a whole lot easier when you're interviewing people then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Networking helps a lot, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
just off that, we have a question in the chat that's actually kind of focused around networking. So Daniel was asking, what's the best way to, and Josh, I'm sure like during your times and working in IB and stuff, there's probably like tons of students that reached out to you to like network and coffee chat or whatever it might be. And so I think Daniel's question is more focused about what's the best way to really reach out to people. And then once you reach out, really make a connection with them. So it kind of leads to an interview. And then, like you said, once you get into the interview room, it's like a more not easier process, but more smooth process, essentially, just because you've made a connection with the person you've networked with.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, networking. I mean, I always recommend going to like people that you've had some kind of relation with, or like a friend of a friend first, your close network. But oftentimes you'll see a position, it'll be, you might not even know anybody at that bank. And you're thinking, how can I, talk to somebody at that bank so I can, mention that I talked to somebody in my cover letter, and I can mention it in the interview that I learned more about the firm, and by talking to people, right? It's nice to have to talk to somebody before or after you apply. That being said, I've like my investment banking jobs I actually got without having met anybody so in that bank. So it's very possible that you don't have to, but it helps to get that first interview. How do you get a response? Keep your email relatively short. Obviously professional and positive, but don't make it too long. You want to make it just say like, here's me, like I'm a student, whatever, have had some internship experience here, and I'm really interested in learning more about investment banking or whatever it is. Do you have 10 to 15 minutes to chat quickly over the phone, at any time at your convenience, or whenever you're, I'm not going to word it exactly perfectly here on the spot, but that's the gist of it. It should be pretty short. You send these out, and the idea is you're asking to learn more about the industry, right? Like, let's say you're messaging somebody in the energy group, and you're like, I want to learn more about the energy group, right? And you want to have some questions prepared about energy, like, what's your favorite project you've worked in this space, or like what do you like about working in this space, or what do you don't like about working in energy? So yeah, combination of figuring out the firms you're interested in, figuring out somebody you want to talk to there, and ideally somebody you know or a friend of a friend. And if not, if you have to go in cold, just make it short, make it simple, ask to learn more. Never try to push your resume through. You can start asking about internships and stuff once you're on the phone. That's when you can start being like, hey, I'm actually really interested in this, in applying and stuff like that, or whatever it is. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that was great. Does anybody have any more questions? I don't see any hands raised or any questions in the chat, but I think on behalf of everyone who attended today, I just want to say thanks once again, Josh, for coming back again this year and doing a great session again. Really appreciate it. And yeah, if you have any kind of concluding words, pass it over back to you, essentially.
Yeah, I know. I love doing this. I really like the smart questions. For me, it's a privilege to kind of get involved with kind of the raw potential involved in investment clubs, and it's something I've started doing actually all around North America. And my goal is to try to actually create something of an investment club network, if you will. So I will keep doing this. Like recently, the other day I taught at Princeton, for example, and yeah, I just want to keep working with investment clubs because I think that's where the potential is. And I really want to try to get my name out there a bit. That's why I'm trying to take this sort of, free sharing approach, because the way I see it, if I give you guys some value, right, that, it's more likely that the word will spread that I offer a very quality service, and that I am very, very dedicated to what I do. So that being said, thank you for taking the time to listen. Hopefully you learned a bit today. I really enjoyed working with you guys. And hey, if anything at all, feel free to email me at josh@financeinterviewcoach.com. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and so in the email I sent out earlier, Josh's emails were CC'd there. So if you're trying to find it,